when you talk to other young people and you explain what you do, like, how do you get into that side of it?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a really, I would say, like, roundabout way of getting into it, and I think, like, my scenario was pretty unique. But so I started working on the business side 5.5 years ago, working for a guy by the name of Dave Hopkinson, who's now the Chief Commercial Officer at MLSE. At the time, I think he was Senior Vice President of partnership, of corporate partnerships, or Senior Director. I can't even remember. That was so long ago now. But I started working for him. He is by far has been like the greatest influencer in my career. He's an unbelievable leader in person, just in general, and so. You know, he basically, what he did for a few years prior to me is he would have assistants and would turn them over every 2 years on the idea of he loves to teach and loves to grow people. Like that, he's just like a natural born leader, and that's one of his passions. So he would have an assistant for 2 years, teach them the business, show them everything, and then move them on to other jobs in the company. I mean, Deirdre Malloy, she's a senior director on the digital side. Alex Ashley just recently. She was working on the Live Nation music business, so, you know, he's had assistants that have gone off and done some really great things. And so I did that with him for 2 years, and then I moved over to the foundation in sort of a sales and donor servicing capacity, working for two people. I used to work for a girl by the name of Christina Flynn, who at the time was running point on all the community and player programming for the Raptors, and she was doing the foundation stuff. So that's kind of was I would say my first sort of look at like the basketball side, and she was stellar at her job. She was really great. She was unbelievable. And then her boss was a guy by the name of Michael Bartlett, who runs our foundation and now runs all of social responsibility for MLSE. Another great leader. So I've been really fortunate to work for some pretty exceptional people. And my current boss definitely falls in that category. So I was over there for about 8 months, and then when Tim Lewicki came back on, I went back upstairs to work for Hop because his assistant moved over to work for Tim Lewicki. So I went back up there with them for another about 1.5 years, which is how I sort of got to know Masai and worked on some stuff for him. And, you know, so when they decided to do the D-League team, he approached me and asked me if it was something I'd be interested in. And that's kind of how it all came to be.
Wow.
It was quite the roundabout, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, you touched on many different departments, you know, and as I said, gives you more of a holistic view of how the organization runs. And if anything, you know, you also spoke about being, groomed by people who are, knowledge experts in their fields, and that probably provided you with some strength in your role as it goes on.
Yeah, I would also say, like, definitely knowledge experts in their field, without a doubt. They wouldn't be where they were, but I would also say, like, really good people. Like, I've worked with a lot of really great people who are invested in you as a person and not just as a professional.
As a worker, yeah.
And I know that's not always the case for everybody, but I've been really, really lucky to really everybody I've worked for. I haven't had one, negative experience with a boss. I know that's definitely rare.
Yeah.
But I've definitely been fortunate, and my current boss, Dan Toltzman, who's our director of scouting and personnel for the Raptors, but also the GM of our D-League team, is the exact same way. Like, he's great at what he does. He kind of lets me go down here. He trusts me and he lets me do what I do, and we have a great relationship. So I've been really fortunate in that sense, because I think the most important part is, like, as you go through this, it's not so much about your daily tasks and what you're doing. It's more about just the human issues. You know what I mean? Like,
you're right.
There's always things you're going to be faced with as you go through, especially in such a male-dominated world that don't require. It's not about what I learned in school and applying that. What we do down here is certainly a high volume of work, but it's not rocket science. We're not saving lives down here. So most of the things you face are human issues and things that you need to navigate as a personally. And I've been fortunate enough to work for people who have been able to sort of guide me through those things and teach me. And, I'm young. I'm 27.
I was really surprised when I saw that. I was like, wow, that's good.
Yeah, I'm 27. I know I'm still really young, and I still have a lot to learn. I've lived, like, a quarter of my life. There's so many other people that have so much more experience and value and that they can bring and I can learn from. And that to me has been the most valuable, is just, growing as a person, maybe not so much as a professional. I think if you focus on growing as a person, then the rest will kind of fall into place for you.
the one thing that you definitely pointed out was having two sides of the coin, the, you know, education, the business knowledge, and being on the ground, looking at the operations as a whole and playing basketball. I think a lot of women, you know, whether they're in the hosting roles for sports broadcasters or they're just working in the business, they always get critiqued because they don't have the actual playing side, you know. So you definitely bring a lot to the table because you have two sides of the coin.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I also disagree because there's a ton of men on the basketball side or on the front office side who don't have experience in the sport and like playing at a super high level, you know.
But so, they never get as much critique, I've noticed in some of the articles, as women do.
Definitely they don't. They just, you know, when it's that case, they're like, oh, you know, they have this unique spin. Now, with that being said, Nikki Gross, who is the only female assistant coach in the D League who works for us as well, she played soccer in college, I believe. So, you know, she has that unique perspective, and she's worked really, really hard to you know, she just loves basketball, and she knows her knowledge of the game is and of the culture and of the sport is as good as anybody who would have played. So, you know, that that to me is like a positive
step in the right direction.
yeah, exactly. It's a step for sure.
So you did mention that most of your role is making sure the players, you know, their personal side of life is running smoothly. And obviously off the court, you probably work with them very, you know, on an intimate day-to-day basis. You probably know their families and stuff like that. What was one thing that you were surprised to learn about the players coming into the role? And it doesn't have to be anything like too, you know, personal.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
From, you know, you're like, oh, well, you know, these guys like to hang out together and eat dinner together. Just something that normal sports fans wouldn't know because they're not sort of behind the
definitely.
scenes.
You know, it's funny, like, I think I've always been fairly close to the side of the business for one reason or another, just because of where I used to work. And so, you know, it wasn't too shocking. The environment wasn't too shocking to me coming in. I guess the one thing that shocks me the most, and you know, that I knew about, but I don't think I knew on the level, is like what these guys have to go through to get to where they are. Like, you know, it's pretty exceptional to watch these guys play, and they really make it look easy, you know, and then when you see it up close and you see them banging around in practice and doing what they do in lifting and how hard they have to work, you really understand how hard it is to get there from like a physical standpoint and from a skill standpoint, and B, how hard it is to get there from a mental standpoint. It's just so ultra competitive, and they've been raised in a system, the basketball system especially, and that's really the only one I can speak on from a youth level because that's the side I know, is really broken, and it's set up for kids to be taken advantage of as they come up through the system. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there is lots of great coaches out there who are in it for the right reasons, but unfortunately there's a lot of bad coaches who are in it for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. And the political situations that they have to navigate at such a young age and even just, you know, coming into the league and, you know, either getting drafted or you know, going the D-League route, like, there's so many people that come out of the woodwork and so many people that want things from these guys at all times.
Oh, yeah, and people that are scouting and agents.
Yeah. Not even so much agents, just like other people, you know,
family members,
and everything like that, you know. And I don't want to speak poorly because, like, we have a great group and our guys are surrounded by a lot of really good people, and you know, we don't deal honestly, and the Raptors and 905 as a whole, we don't really have that, but you definitely, you know, because
you see it around, yeah.
League, it's really that part makes me really, really sad because, you know, these guys work really hard for what they have, and they've had to navigate all these situations, and there's always someone with their hand out, and that is the part that, you know, I don't want to see these, you know, they're just they all have really good hearts, and they want to take care of the people they came up with, and I'm fine with that, but there's a lot of periphery people, and the system is just really broken, unfortunately, and really set up for these kids to, you know, at a young age to be taken advantage of, and I guess that would be the part to me that, you know, that I don't think a lot of people see. It's not, you know what I mean? You have no idea if people are just, why people are talking to you, and you know what I mean, or why people want to be friends with you, or why this person wants this from you. It's hard to navigate, and that's the part that you know, everybody wants to be them, and, you know, everybody wants to make that money and, you know, be an NBA player or whatever, but they don't understand, like, the grueling life that comes with it.
It goes with it, yeah.
Yeah.
And in terms of going back to your day-to-day, like what's a normal day look like for you, like in your world?
I mean, every day is obviously really different. In the D-League, you kind of have to wear a lot of hats. I'm pretty much responsible for anything off court that's basketball related. So obviously on court, all of our coaches handle that. Anything off court is basically my responsibility. So the one thing I find the most interesting and the thing I like the most about my job is like the off court player development stuff. It's something I've always gravitated towards, and I think that I can like really add some value. So off court player development programming. And just making sure our guys are good at all times, from everything from their onboarding paperwork that the D-League has you facilitate to all their taxes and, medical benefits, anything like that, making sure their families get up here in time, make sure everybody's comfortable, their housing, team travel, like practice times, our entire calendar for the year, scheduling, timing, making sure everybody knows where they need to be at all times. The D-League is pretty unique because we have to transport all our players. That's a rule in the D-League and all the visiting teams. So running points on a lot of that scheduling stuff is a huge part of my job, and kind of making sure that everybody is aligned and everybody knows what's going on when and where and who has to be where. So,
Well, I know you do a lot of work with the People's Basketball Program. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so People's is a program that I've been involved with for a couple of years now. It's a registered charity in Canada that provides, I would call it like a elite basketball program to kids who wouldn't normally be able to afford it in the inner city. So People's, I've been coaching with a guy for a long time, but since I've been in Toronto, and we had a couple different teams. We had an under-19 team at one point when we were like 21, 22. We were, and we realized at that point that we had to go younger. And so we've had this group of kids now since they were 13.
Oh, wow.
We had them in one program and moved them from the program. We're looking for, a program that kind of shared the same values as what we were teaching, which was kids first, school first, more of a life skills program than a basketball program. And we happen to find people at the perfect time. So it's pretty amazing. I mean, it's a life skills program that uses basketball as the hook. And so the vision for the program is that 100% of our youth will go to a post-secondary education program or some sort of employment training program, whether that be plumbing, electrician.
Why is it important for women to also be on the field and then in the boardroom and in all spaces of sports?
Yeah, I think to me it's just about unfortunately, there were years and years of women not being treated as equal citizens, and as much as that's over, it's very much over. It takes a long time to break down, people's opinions and views on the subject. It's going to take a long time for us to ever maybe break those down. I think the key for me is just I don't care if you don't like it. That's my point. I'm lucky enough that that within our organization, we have a really strong female representation in comparison to the rest of the league, both in D-League and in the NBA side. So I think that, I face no barriers internally by being a female. And so I think maybe sometimes I don't have the best perspective because I haven't gone through some of the things that other people had to go through, but I definitely have faced it externally. And I don't care, to be completely honest. At this point in my life, I know I'm good at my job. I'm supported by the people I work for and work with, and to me that's enough. And, if nobody, if we just want to sit stagnant and not do anything about it, then it's just going to stay the same. So at some point we need to do something about it. And yeah, it's not right. It's not fair. It's not any of those things, but it doesn't change the fact that that's your reality. And I think that's, that's where I struggle with. I'm really vocal about women in sports and supporting it, and I'll do my part to kind of show people that there's a path for this. But I struggle with my opinion on it because I'm certainly not like the traditional feminist who's I don't see certain things as even if they are maybe small nuances where I don't know, where someone comes out, walks in the locker room and says, "Hey guys," I don't pick up on things like that, on little subtle nuances, and I don't choose those as battles for me to take on. Yeah. Because I think that the more we nitpick, the more you kind of distract from the bigger issues. but I do choose my time to speak up, and I do choose my time to vocalize when I think something isn't fair. But to me, sometimes we take on the two small battles, which is like, you know, a word or using the wrong word for something, and those things are all important, but I think sometimes it just distracts from the bigger issue, and I choose to kind of take a stand on the bigger issues. And, you know, I've had plenty of negative experiences as a female in this industry, but I've also had plenty of positive ones. And, you know, my viewpoint is to just not to sweat the small stuff and just keep pushing, because 99% of the people are good. And it's crazy because I think it's also just a lack of knowledge, because the majority of men in this industry are good men, and they have daughters and sisters and mothers, and they see females as equal, and they don't treat me any differently, and that's the 99% without a doubt. But the kicker most of the time is that they don't even know that the 1% exists, because they can't, in their minds and in their hearts, like, they can never even fathom someone doing that or them doing it themselves. So when you tell them stories, they're like, what?
Yeah, or they're like, it's 2016. Are people actually like saying that to you or tweeting that to you? Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that's the biggest part of the awareness is that the people who aren't doing it can't fathom that something like that would ever happen. They don't even know that it happens unless we speak about it. So I try to be really vocal, not in a complaining way, but in a way that's just like, hey, yeah, these are my experiences, and this is real life for me, and this is what happens. And the feedback that I met with is always super positive. You know, you can't let one bad apple ruin the crop, you know.
That's true.
That's
true.
Is the most important thing. And as much as I take a stand and I do everything I can to support girls and women, and you know, I'm always a champion for, you know, I think it's amazing. I think it's both alarming and amazing at the same time that we have two females in the D-League from a basketball standpoint. So there's me and Nikki, and there's not really anybody else from a hands-on basketball perspective except for a trainer. I think with Windy City or Long Island has a female trainer, which, again, is also amazing. But
it's also good for you to work for an organization that is progressive, that is trying to, I mean, some people might measure it and say, okay, 2 is not that much, but I mean, if you look at the whole league, as you were saying, there's not that many female representation, you know, on or off the court, right?
And I'm thrilled,
I'm
thrilled that we are the organization that has the
leading
most,
that.
But it's also alarming because it's, you know, it's not common amongst the league. So, I mean, again, like I'm all for it. I'm a champion for this cause, and I think it's important. But I also think that, you know, I don't want to say I ignore the problem, but I choose not to acknowledge it as an issue for myself. So
no, and it's very honest of you to say that, because some people, you know, just continue, as you said, to really argue about the smaller things. And I think largely it's representation for women to be, you know, taken seriously in these roles, because we do have the skills and we're educated and we can do the job just like men are. You know, there's a lot of talk about equal pay. So these are the larger issues that, you know, hopefully when the larger issues change, the smaller ones will change, you know?
Exactly.